Good evening and welcome to the school committee meeting of August 26th, 7th, 8th, 9th, 31st. I was getting there.
Up here. Yeah.
I was counting it down.
I should say 31st.
Welcome to the school committee meeting of August 31st, 2017. As we start all meetings, I'd like to remind everyone this meeting is being recorded for use at a later date and is also being broadcast live. As we start tonight, we always start with a moment of silence, and I'd like you to keep in your thoughts the people of Houston, Texas, with the issues they're having down there with the weather. But as important as that, I'd like you to also keep Evelyn Barr in your thoughts. She was a esteemed school committee member in the 1980s, roughly, and she's also the mother of a former employee, Millie O'Callahan, and a current employee, Patty DeProst. So I'd ask you to keep her in your thoughts. Her service is a Saturday, 11 a.m. at St. Joseph the Worker Church in Hanson. And as I said, she was an esteemed school committee member. So please keep all of those people in your thoughts. Thank you. Thank you. Could you please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, welcome back, everyone. I know we seems like it's been a long time since we had a meeting, and it sort of has been a little bit. School opened up on Wednesday without any fanfare. We had some happy faces. I know a lot of people got around to different parts of buildings, and so it was a good day. We don't have a student advisor with us this evening, so you will not be getting a student advisory report. I'd entertain a motion to accept the minutes of June 12th, 2017.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Abstaining? I'd entertain a motion to accept the minutes of June 14th, 2017.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Abstaining? One abstention. Thank you. Ruth, if you could give us your superintendent's report?
Sure, thank you.
Even to you. I know it's not welcome back because administrative offices are open year-round, but
Yeah, we had a very busy summer. We had a number of new employees. We've had some resignations, maternity leaves, a variety of things. So I'm very busy with interviewing and, of course, numerous projects that have happened throughout the district. Probably the biggest is the installation of the new turf field, which was finished on time, and it will first be used for a varsity girls soccer game on Wednesday evening, September 6th. And then will be used for varsity football on Friday, September 8th, when we play Plymouth South. So very exciting. I see Mr. Rogers is here. He's excited too. And that was just one of many projects. If you visit our schools, you'll see that the entranceways at Whitman Middle School and Hanson Middle School have been reworked. This was done for the purposes of safety and security. Pat Dillon, Ernie Sandland worked with the principals and the folks there to make sure that there was definitely a way to stop people as they come in so that they are now channeled right into the office. So if you get a chance, you might want to take a look at that. They're really very good at taking something, reworking it, and making it look like it's always looked that way. We've also had paving and painting and all sorts of other projects that have been going on. Right now, there's a project still in progress, which is the installation of the traffic signals out in front of the building out on Route 27 to help with pedestrian crossings and also just to slow things down a bit. That's not finished, but it's being worked on. We had a meeting this summer with abutters. We had one abutter come, and he was very comfortable with what was being done. So our teachers came back on Monday morning, and we were happy to see them all. Maureen McKenzie and her staff did a fabulous job of having breakfast. They said they had fewer leftovers than ever, so it was nice. They had muffins and croissants and juice and yogurt and all kinds of things, and people were very appreciative of that. We then met in the Performing Arts Center for our opening program. We give awards to teachers for longevity, so that was fun. Our longest that we have, the award we gave this time was 35 years of service to Paula Weber. We do have people who've been in the district longer than that, but 35 years was what her award was, and then others for various amounts less than that. We also welcomed our new hires and provide sweatshirts to folks who've attained professional status. So it was very, very busy. And Michelle Lindberg, I should say, Michelle Lindberg and Siobhan Horton were just fabulous in making sure that all of that happened. And every year on opening day, we also give out the Dr. John F. McEwen Do What's Best for Kids Award. So that was given out as well, and it was given to Maureen Leonard. This was actually awarded in June, but the actual presentation happens on the opening day. So that was a lot of fun, and also recognized a number of other teachers who were nominees also who give tremendous service to the district. Following that, we had something brand new, and I brought one of these this evening. We'll pass it around if you haven't seen this. Last spring, I had a meeting with the curriculum directors, and we were talking about professional development, how we use the time we have, early release days. And one of the issues that came up was the fact that almost everything we do today now has something to do with technology. And we always have people asking for training. I know Chad can attest to that it happens a lot. So they came up with a plan to offer a professional development program to staff for 2 one-hour sessions after the opening program. They started putting it together. What they ultimately came up with was this fabulous catalog, which gave our teachers the opportunity to choose 2 different sessions they wanted to attend. They all, more or less in some way or other, linked how you use technology to improve student learning. Chad's department was great because Colin and Brian circulated throughout the building while this was going on to make sure we had no technology breakdowns. I know Chad was working in the foreign language lab, and it was just an incredibly positive event. This building was buzzing. And they did a very interesting thing at the end. They wanted to get feedback because they're going to use the information from these sessions to inform what they do in the upcoming school year. But in order to make sure that everybody did their little evaluations at the end, they had exciting door prizes that ranged from like an oil change and a Keurig. There were all kinds of different things that they could win, but they could win them if they had the best poker hands. So every time they turned their evaluations in, they got playing cards, and when they exited here to go back to their schools, those with the best poker hands became eligible for these exciting prizes. And I believe they're going to be awarding those tomorrow. But this was really a cool thing to see how something could go from what was a kind of vague idea to this wonderful program. And I'll pass it this way, and then we can pass it back around, because I think you'd really enjoy looking at that. So then the teachers worked in their classrooms and in their schools on Tuesday, and of course Wednesday students came. Everything has to go smoothly, and Diane Naughton, Karen Villanueva, very pleased with how well bus transportation went, nothing really running late, everything on time, and that happened again today. I saw Maureen McKenzie, and the food services went well as well. So I think we are off to a really good start. Building projects are a couple little tweaks, I know, with the door over at Hanson Middle, getting that finished, but I believe that's done. So a couple of little things. So at the next meeting in September, you'll get complete updates of all the projects that happened over the summer. So just thought that would be something for you to hear. A really good opening, I think. Very, very smooth. Took the efforts of a lot of people. I don't think the buildings could look any better than they do. So hiring the second shift manager, which we did this past school year, Paul DoCanto, has made a huge difference in the quality of the work that we're seeing in our schools, because we now have a site-based person who's ensuring that doors are locked, windows are closed, floors are cleaned, and I think we're in a much better position than we've been. So a very positive start. We're excited about it. Our new teachers have had 3 days of orientation the week before, and they now have the opportunity to take a beginning teacher course that will go on for the school year. So if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them. Yes, Bob?
When you said how many new teachers did we?
It's around 20, which was surprising because I always think we aren't going to have any, and then somehow we do. But, you know, we'll get resignations that we haven't anticipated, and
So a lot of them were
And
filled,
some of them are long-term subs, because we have a couple of people who are out for the entire year for a family leave or something like that. It's about 20, so, Pat, isn't that what you think for the mentors? And yeah, it was really good, and a range. Quite a few in special ed department, speech and language, a real variety. And we can have that list for you, too, if the next
yeah,
time
yeah,
you'd like to
yeah,
see.
I'm just curious, that's all.
Sure. We're hiring right up till the last minute,
I'm sure.
and even beyond. So, any questions? Okay, great. The second thing is we were going to be introducing Anthony Branco to you. He's going to be at the next school committee because we had to change the date, so we're going to pass over that. The next piece, you received in your packet a memo from me talking about changes in central office, and I thought it was important to discuss that with you this evening, and hopefully we can move forward with the restructuring. Surprisingly and sadly, on the 17th of August, Pat Dillon informed me that he needed to resign from the Whitman Hanson Regional School District from his position as Assistant Superintendent due to family considerations. This was a surprise, and it is a great loss to the Whitman Hanson Regional School District. So it really has required in the past 2 weeks a lot of thinking about what is the best way to move forward. What do we really need to do here? I believe that trying to hire a replacement assistant superintendent at this point in time would be very, very difficult. This is not the time that hiring takes place, and if we took someone, we'd be creating a problem for another school system. In addition to that, I believe, as we move forward in the process of looking for someone for that position, that we have several internal candidates, internal employees who might want to be candidates for that position. If we were to put any of those folks in that position now, either as a full-time or as an interim, we would be creating another gap in the school system administration that we would then have to fill. So my first recommendation that I sent you in the memo was that we do fill that position, but that we fill it for the 18-19 school year, and that we begin late fall, just as we did when Craig Finley left to fill that position, with a posting, a search committee. This provides both internal and external candidates, and I think it also gives us the opportunity to get the very best applicants. So my first recommendation was that we don't fill the position now, but that we clearly do need this position, and that we create a search committee, post it, I would say probably around November or so, and see, could even do it in October if we want to, and really see who's going to be doing this. And we really do want to cast a wide net to get a very qualified candidate. I went through a period of time where I thought, well, maybe we just don't need to do anything and we'll just keep doing what we're doing. But I do believe that with the closing of McQuon, the transitions, the personnel issues that Pat has worked with, safety and security, that I think it would be a good move for us to hire an interim to fill in for that position. I spent a lot of time thinking about who would be the kind of person to be able to do an interim position. And I really put a tremendous amount of thought into this. And one of my colleagues and resources is Christine McGrath. She works with MASS, which is the executive superintendent's group that I'm a member of. And Chris was a former superintendent for 16 years in the Tewksbury Public Schools. So I called her. I also know that she knows Pat, so she would know what kind of a hole we're trying to fill. When I talked to her, we had a wonderful conversation, and as the conversation went on, she made a suggestion of an interim that I'd like to bring forward to you, and that is Rosamond Dorrance. Rosamond Dorrance worked in the Whitman Hanson Regional School District from 1972 until 2000. She worked at the Holt School as a teacher, and then later reported to me when I became administrator of curriculum and instruction. She was the coordinator of gifted and talented when we had that at the time. She left Whitman Hanson because she was commuting from Wilmington. When she got the job in Whitman Hanson, she lived in the area. Over time, she got married, had 3 children, and had hired someone to take care of the kids while they were young. However, when they got to high school, she felt that being that far away was probably not a good idea, and took a position in the Tewksbury schools and became an administrator there. She is now retired, lives in Hull, and would be available if that is the pleasure of the committee to move forward with an interim. She would very likely work 3 days a week. She has excellent background experience in opening and closing of schools, also in personnel, and probably most specifically in curriculum instruction and staff development. So I believe this would be a positive for Whitman Hanson. It's not a person who would be interested in the assistant superintendent position, so it's not as if we're giving someone a head start on that job as well. In addition to that, Rosamond Dorrance is very well respected in the Whitman Hanson Regional School District. As a matter of fact, she was Karen Downey's mentor. So I think this would be a win-win for us. In addition to that, there's some cost savings that could really benefit us as well. So my recommendation at this point in time would be to post for the assistant superintendent position late fall, have a wide range of candidates, fill the position for the upcoming school year, hire an interim for several days a week who would work with us for the rest of the school year. So that's my first recommendation. So happy for any comments, questions you all might have.
Before we go into discussion, and entertain a motion to accept.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion. Thank you. Mr. Boyce?
Yeah, I would certainly go with the superintendent's recommendation. You know, one of the things I always think about is the longevity of how many people we have here and, you know, the hard work that they do and how they benefit us. And if someone can come back and benefit us even further in helping out, I think that's a huge piece. And especially with just what you said verbally for qualifications, Ruth, I'm totally on board with the idea.
Okay, thank you. Yes.
Kevin?
When I looked at your letter, Ruth, my immediate thought was, this almost has to be somebody who already is familiar with the district, because I mean, you're dropping them in there, you don't have the time to
Well, that was
orient
another
somebody to the
concern,
district
Kevin, that
and
I
stuff.
had is
So-
how am I going to do
So,
all
I mean, this seems like the only way to make it work, and I'm glad you brought, because I was going to say, you know, can we find someone who's already been here? you
Yeah,
know,
and
as a
she
stopgap?
has maintained, of course, anyone who's been hired after 2000 didn't work with Rosamond, but there's still a number of people who did, Peter Nemi, Liz Crowley. Bob, I think you know
I
Rosamond.
know, yes, I do.
Yeah. Would you feel comfortable with her in that?
Absolutely.
You would
I was
have no
gonna-
concerns?
No.
No.
Chris?
I like the recommendation. I think it's making the best of the situation at hand. But I know there's a lot of cost consciousness. You spoke about cost. Can you give without exact, can you give a
Sure.
rough
She's-
cost
she-
estimation of what?
She's retired.
Yep.
So because she's retired through MTRS, she cannot make a full salary. She can only make a portion of a salary. She's going to be working 3 days a week. We've not discussed money, but I would be surprised if it cost even $50,000.
Great.
Okay.
And that would be like at $500 a day for 100 days, so I think we'll be fine.
I think it's
Yeah,
great.
this is where, you know, I think it is a win as well, because she knows the district, and also there will be some savings.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Before I take the vote, Pat, we're going to miss you terribly. My first thought would be, just don't accept his resignation, lock the door.
That was my first thought as well.
You know.
Didn't
I can
work.
do that.
Didn't
But-
work.
Seriously, we're going to miss you. You've been an asset to this district, and I want to thank you for all that you've done for the Whitman Hanson Regional School District, and wish you the best in your endeavors. So thank you. Is there any further discussion before we move to the vote?
When's his last day?
The 15th of September.
Anything else? All those in favor? Thank you. Again, Pat, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Pat.
The second part of my recommendation is that when we hired Kyle Riley in the spring, we really talked to him a lot about taking on a number of things that John Quealy had not done. And Kyle was very willing to do this. In addition to that, in hiring Kyle, we also hired an experienced special education administrator. Served in a similar position in Dighton Rehoboth and also in the Haverhill Public Schools. So when we had our conversations in the spring, there was some talk about, is this more of an assistant superintendent of student services than an administrator of special education? However, because we were in budget season at the time, we certainly didn't want any misconceptions that we were looking at an additional positions. Because I think I mentioned 2 or 3 times in the memo, this is not an additional position. My recommendation is to have you take a look at the new job description, which is farther down on the agenda, but that shows you all as a committee, we did it where you could actually see the track changes, and hopefully you've had a chance to look at that, at the additional responsibilities that Kyle would take on. He will be responsible for English as a second language program, which is something that I was responsible for last year. It was not part of John Quealy's responsibilities. He will also be responsible for home education, which I was responsible for last year. In addition to that, he's going to be one of the key players in the transition process, most specifically in the transition of special education programs, which will have to happen, and also the movement of the preschool program to the high school here. So I believe that certainly warrants that position as well, Assistant Superintendent of Student Services. This is not a replacement of what Pat Dillon does right now. It really is an extension of the special ed position to encompass student services for all children. We've done a lot of thinking about social emotional learning. We know that our students today are dealing with a lot. And I think having a dedicated assistant superintendent position to that is really in the best interest of all of our children, those with and without special needs. I also believe that because the special ed position is such a major part of the budget, as you all know, with both in-district and out-of-district services, that requires a specific level of expertise and care in taking care of the budget, and Kyle clearly brings that to the table as well. So my second recommendation would be to have you vote a revision of the job description from Administrator of Special Education, Pupil Personnel Services to Assistant Superintendent of Student Services. And then my second recommendation would be to appoint Kyle to that position. I was asked today if that should be posted. I think it's essentially what Kyle was hired to do with the change in title. This is not dissimilar to what happened when Craig Finley went into the Assistant Superintendent of District Operations after having been Director of Technology and Special Operations. So we've got a couple of things here to think about. So I think first the job description.
Entertain a motion to accept the job description as read.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion.
Yeah.
Bob?
Isn't that the Assistant Superintendent of Student Service, isn't that the common term that a lot of schools use now?
Yes,
as opposed to
Abington,
specifically-
actually, Dipna Thomas has that title right now in Abington. And there also was a similar title last year in West Bridgewater. I don't know if that's what Patty Oakley's using this year. That is becoming more prevalent because the special ed title is clearly a big part of it, but we really don't want to neglect special services for all kinds of students, as I said a minute ago, especially with the concerns that we have.
That's fine.
Anyone else? All those in favor? Unanimous, thank you. And the second part of it, Ruth, just briefly?
My recommendation would be for the school committee to approve the appointment of Kyle Riley to the position of Assistant Superintendent of Student Services. He has a 3-year contract. We would revise the contract with that title. There is no change in salary, and essentially the elements of the contract are the same. It is an expanded job description.
Entertain a motion?
Second.
Discussion? My question is, Kyle, are you all set with it?
I'm ready to go and already started. I truly believe that you know, we need to be here for all children, and that my experience leads me to a place that covers not just specifically special ed students, but all students in the district, so I'm excited about it.
Okay. Anyone else? All those in favor? Unanimous. Thank you, Ruth.
Okay, thank you
Thank
very
you.
much. The next thing I have is the North River Collaborative Report. As you know, this used to be Steve's job. The board has not met as of yet. The new director is now on board. Our first meeting isn't until the beginning of October, but we continue to work with North River Collaborative. This summer, we were part of a Title III grant that provided services to our English language learners. Mike Caponigro, who is our ESL tutor in the district, worked with our students, and we had a wonderful group of 6 to 8 kids who came to this tutoring all throughout the summer. It was supposed to be in the morning. They'd stay all day, and it was just a wonderful experience. I saw one of the students this morning when we had the fire drill, and it's been great because it kept them speaking English, reading English, and I just commend Mike for his work and thank North River, because we're not able to write a Title III grant. You have to have at least 100 English language learners to be able to do that. We have about 40. That includes our former English language learners. They write grants on our behalf, provided us with money for Mike to tutor, so it was a real plus. And I just can't say enough about how North River works for Whitman Hanson. In addition to working with them, we also will continue to have the services of Wendy Haskell. Through our partnership with North River, Wendy provides professional development in technology. She used to work in the Falmouth School. She's retired, works part-time for them. And we'll have her services and also the services of Denny Howley, who was part of the grant that we had that brought social workers to the school district for 3 years. Denny's going to stay working with us 1 day a week to keep that whole social work piece moving. And from working with Denny, we'll get way more than a day. I shouldn't say that. She might be watching this. But Denny's a great worker, and we're lucky to have her. She'll be working closely with Kyle. This is one of the student services pieces that's going to be part of his role. Last year, we had a $20,000 Safe and Supportive Schools grant. They had to write a plan for how we could improve our services in Whitman Hanson. Denny's going to stay on to actually start implementing some of those recommendations. And that's all through our collaboration with North River. Also, last Tuesday, a number of us went to a program at North River in the morning. It was the administrative seminar on legal issues, and that was very valuable to us as well. Great partnership, and once the board starts meeting, I'll have some more details about what they're offering. Yes.
Question, on the ESL, has that changed? I know it was, at least when I was around, it was taught this way, and then there was a statewide change to teach it this way, and then I heard that, is it going back to, or is it going to be a combination of both, or?
What we offer at Whitman Hanson, because we're low incidence, is that it's called sheltered English immersion. So when the students come, there really isn't a bilingual class. We don't have enough kids to do that. So that's really what the state is promoting right now. But I think they're also finding for some students that's not particularly helpful. So I think it's like the teaching of reading. There are lots of ways to do it, and it probably varies a lot from student to student. But we have sheltered English immersion. We have 2 teachers, Rachel Sellers and Mike Caponigro. About 40 students, about 25 of them are really active English language learners. About 75% are from Brazil and speak Portuguese.
Ruth, when are your most collaborative meetings? Fridays or?
Friday
did you take-
mornings.
Friday
It's
mornings?
usually the first Friday of the month, and I just put them on my calendar, so I think the first one's the first Friday in October.
Okay.
Oh, is that?
By itself?
No, you have to leave the door open, so we're good. We're okay.
All right. The next thing we have, Christine Succo could not be here tonight because of the date change for the meeting, but we have line item transfers, and you should have them in front of you. These are the line item transfers that are necessary for the closing of the FY17 budget. And if you have any questions, I'll try my best to answer them for you.
Keep in mind, this doesn't change the dollar figure. It's
Right.
cleaning up some accounts and bringing certain things into line of what accounts they need to be processed into.
That's right. So we will be looking for a motion
I'll
to
entertain a
approve them.
motion to accept the line item transfers as in your pamphlet, in your minutes. Seconded, any discussion? All those in favor? Unanimous, thank you.
Great. And, we talk about Munis every year. I think our skills with Munis are getting better and better, and Christine had that budget closed out much earlier this year than in the past. So, it's great, becoming more proficient at how we're doing that. Okay.
Okay, does anyone have any questions for Ruth? Thank you.
Good.
Wonderful
Welcome.
report.
Thank
I'm
you.
going to take Bob Rogers out of order, because I know he's got tons to do.
Oh, yeah, not much.
He's got a couple of small things here, and we're going to vote on them, and that way he can get back to his duties.
Thank you.
Yeah, make sure everybody's coming. Okay, thank you.
So good evening and welcome back. I handed out the recap from last school year, just as we go into the new school year. I gave you one of these last year as well. One of my goals is to make sure that we have good history of what happens here at Whitman Hanson. I know that sometimes it's difficult. Somebody will ask me, hey, when was the last time a team did such and such? And I'll say, I don't think it ever happened. And then somebody will email me, yes, I was on that team that won that championship. So this is what I'm going to do every year while I'm athletic director. It just gives you a good idea. Each team is represented, tells you a little bit about their records. And the biggest number that I think that's important for the committee to see is 591 students participating. And in addition to those 591 students, we also have student managers, and also the student body really attends most of our events. The athletic program is a central part of the Whitman Hanson High School experience. I also do want to point out that the records, I know sometimes people will judge us based on our records. We did have a sub 500 record overall as an athletic program, but that is because we've introduced so many new teams that are playing varsity sports for the first time. Gymnastics, for example, field hockey. So sometimes their records, they're competing, trying really hard, and they're improving quite a bit, but it does affect the overall record. We did have 5 league champions last year. We did have 2 teams win sectional championships. We had a state championship team, and of course the cheerleaders won their New England championship and the national championship as well. So when you have a chance, you can take a look at that. I did have a couple of things for the committee tonight that I needed some action on, and the first is the addition of boys swimming. So when I brought to you a few years back the idea of bringing girls swimming to Whitman Hanson, it really was because of Title IX equity, to try to get more opportunities for girls here at Whitman Hanson. In fact, the last 4 sports that we've added here at Whitman Hanson have been for girls. The Office of Civil Rights mandates that, but it's also the right thing to do. So we've done a great job in getting more girls participating. Our field hockey team, which we just started 3 years ago, we have 65 girls participating in that program now. It's really wonderful. So I've been reluctant to add boys sports, to be completely candid, because we do have the obligation to make sure we meet the needs of the underserved sex, which is the girls at Whitman Hanson, in terms of the number of opportunities. So that's why the last sports that we've offered have all been girls sports. But a father came up to me recently and said that he's a father of a freshman, and he wants his son to play or participate in swimming. Now, we don't have a boys swimming team, and our girls swimming team is a co-op with Middleborough High School, so this presents a unique problem. If that was a Whitman Hanson team, we would not have to add boys swimming for this boy to participate. He could participate on the girls team, especially if there's only one. But it's unique because of the state rules that if you have a co-op team, the school committee has to vote to allow that to exist. I don't know if this is going to get approved, because I have a lot of work to do to make it happen so that this boy can participate. I've asked the question, well, what will happen if we don't get all the approvals we need? This boy still has a legal right, since we offer it for the girls, he has a legal right to participate. But Middleborough doesn't have to take him because they don't have any obligation to Whitman Hanson students to have boys swimming. So it is kind of complicated. So I'm here just before you tonight to ask you to vote to allow me to pursue it. It does require a school committee vote to add boys swimming. It will not cost the school district any money at all. It will just be that we will be able to add boys swimming if then Middleborough approves it, and then if District C approves it, and then if the MIAA approves it. So it is a long road, but because, you know, this particular student is a Whitman Hanson student, I'm going to go to bat for him and try to make it happen for him. And you never know. I mean, the unique thing is when I started field hockey, I had that first meeting and 9 girls showed up. And I almost didn't start it. I actually asked Abington, would you like to get in with us? And they had a meeting and they had 2 kids show up. So I almost didn't do it. And then I was like, you know what, I'm going to try, and we'll try to recruit. If we can get, 3 more girls, we'll have enough. And now we have 65 girls doing it. So who's to say that if we add boys swimming that it won't become pretty popular? And the bright side of it is, if we were to do that and we were to get, like, say, 7 or 8 boys to do it, then maybe down the line we could just have a Whitman Hanson swim team, and it wouldn't have to be a co-op team. We could do it. I could maybe get a pool someplace local, and we could try to make that happen. So just in the short term, I just need the committee, if you would, to vote to allow me to continue, and that you guys would support a co-op boys swim. So the motion should be to approve a co-op boys swim winter team with Middleborough High School.
I'd entertain a motion as just read by our athletic director, Mr. Rogers.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? Bob?
When would this start, if this is approved?
My hope is that it will start this December.
December.
So like I said, it's a lot of work to do. And what complicates matters is that Middleborough's longtime AD, who's the one who we started the co-op with, has retired. And there's a new AD in place over there. So it's been difficult. But I'm optimistic that we can make it happen.
Anyone else? All those in favor? Unanimous.
Thank you
Bob.
very much. The next item I have for you is the addition of 2 scoreboards to the softball and baseball fields, which again will not cost the district any money. The parents from both the softball and baseball teams ran a golf tournament. They made over $10,000. And in addition to that, several parents have volunteered their labor and even some materials. They're the same group that put the scoreboard up at Whitman Middle. So I would just ask the committee to accept the donation of 2 scoreboards, one for the one for the boys' baseball field and one for the softball field. And again, it is Title IX compliant. Both scoreboards will be identical, so that will again make sure that we're meeting our Title IX obligations.
I'd entertain a motion to accept the scoreboards as just read to you by our athletic director, Mr. Rogers.
Second.
Discussion? All those in favor? I commend all the parents and the volunteers for doing that, Bob. It's just another thing showing that Whitman Hanson people are moving forward.
It's amazing, too. I will just take a moment, too. You come into this facility now and you see those beautiful new tennis courts and the baseball and softball fields that have those great dugouts that also was a donation and a volunteer project, and now the beautiful turf field. I just give Ernie Sandlin and the entire facilities crew so much credit for how great our place looks. I have people come in all the time and go, how many people do you have? And if they knew how few people we have to make this place look like it does. And just since we're on TV, that anybody that's at home from Whitman and Hanson, for all the people that supported us to get that new turf field, it's such a source of pride for the kids. You can, even the kids who don't play, to come down and look at it. And if you haven't had a chance to see it yet, it's got a beautiful big Panther logo in the middle. And it's a difficult project to do. In fact, an area school was going through it at the same time, and theirs isn't done yet. And we're actually playing them in a couple of weeks, and we're hoping that their field will be done. But the work that the superintendent's office did, and the business office, and then Ernie Sandlin's group, we were driving all over God's creation, looking at different turf projects because we knew if we messed this up, it wouldn't look good. So just want to thank the people for supporting that. So the next item is we have a donation for our homecoming, and I just felt like it was appropriate for you to vote on it just because there is an element of advertising to it, and I know that the committee, we do have a policy on advertising. A candy, I had never heard of this candy. It's called Maltesers. I don't know if you guys have heard of them. They're like malted milk balls. They're kind of like Whoppers. So it's I guess a competitor of that, but they're going to donate a lot of them for our homecoming event. They'll be free, and they'll be given out to the kids as they come in and as prizes for the various events that we have for homecoming. So they're just little candies. So they'll probably, I don't know exactly what it will entail, but there'll probably be a sign of some kind at our facility. But I just thought that you, just in the interest of, I know sometimes when we have advertising on something, people are like, oh, we didn't know about that. So I wanted you to know about it.
I'd entertain a motion to accept.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? Bob, the sign you're talking about, anyone else before I jump in?
And it wouldn't be permanent, Bob, it would just be like while we're doing it, it would just
That's
be.
what I'm
Yeah,
asking.
it wouldn't be permanent.
You knew where I was going. They'll be doing it when they
It's
give
gonna
it
be,
them out.
it's going to be during homecoming week. In fact, I might end up being, I suppose I should just ask right now, Subway has also said that they would like to be part of our homecoming and to give some things away. I guess they have some kind of a mascot that they might, we're trying to make homecoming more fun and more festive. So if, Ruth, I don't know if it's appropriate since it's not on the agenda, but just to accept that the fact that Subway may also be making a donation. So if you could just accept that, that would just at least,
We're gonna do them one at a time, though.
okay, so we'll do Maltesers.
The Maltesers are first. I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Unanimous. Okay, I'd entertain a motion to accept the same type of a thing from Subway, only I would assume it's going to be mini subs or,
Well, actually, they're going to give us a coupon book that different teams can use as a fundraiser, and they can, most school districts, they've done it in a few different school districts, they can sell it for like $5, and it has, actually, I was looking at it, one of the coupons is a free sub, so just buying the book itself gives you the value of the book, so.
Like those sports teams when they went around.
Yeah, exactly,
every year.
exactly, yep.
I'd entertain a motion to accept.
Second.
Any further discussion? Same type of thing, the sign's gonna be there that week. and
Yeah, so
then-
they might, like I said, they said they might bring some mascot, I've never seen it, but I guess it looks like a sandwich. So I guess it'd probably be something fun for the day.
Any further discussion? All those in favor? Thank you. Thanks, Bob.
All right, and that's all I have. I hope to see you guys at some of the athletic events, whathletics.com. You can find all the schedules, and if you follow us on Twitter, you'll get all the results. So thank you very much for all your support. It really,
doing-
we're very lucky, the school district's very lucky from the top, from our superintendent to our principal and to all of you that support us so well. The kids really appreciate it.
We're doing WHC, Whitman Hanson Community Access is doing the Friday night game. I'll be there.
It's exciting.
Yeah, so-
Is that you, Howard Cosell? Thanks, guys. Thank you.
Thanks, Bob.
Great, thank you.
Okay, old business. We need to recertify the budget. And it says to certify the FY18 budget in accordance with pre-K to 12 Whitman Hanson Regional School District Agreement, Section 4, Paragraph D, E, and MGL Law Small c 7-2 at $48,688,028.70. That would be the motion I would entertain.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? This is just a yearly thing where we're recertifying the budget. Anyone? All those in favor? Unanimous, thank you. Next up, McQuon Closing and Transition Planning. Pat and Kyle are going to give us a brief discussion of what's going on.
Sure. So we had one major milestone this summer, and that was the decision on where to locate the preschool. After several meetings and several site visits between Duval and high school, it was determined that the high school best fits the preschool. We took that opportunity to test our communication plan. As we identified the need to transition to McQuon, we prioritized the importance of communicating effectively to stakeholders, especially major milestones. So we'll leverage that same communication plan structure as we continue to update milestones. We had several meetings this summer to talk about the 4 phases of transition, and I'll just revisit those: preschool to now the high school, K2 to Indian Head, 5th grade to Hanson Middle, and then the special ed programs. We identified dozens of considerations and tasks associated with each of those phases, so that took a little bit of time, but we now have a really good understanding of what needs to be done. The next phase to that is to identify the key stakeholders who own those considerations and tasks, assign some timelines, and then we'll be able to status you on very specific tasks. The other thing that Michelle Lindberg just helped me with is as we're looking at the McQuon transition, we're also looking at staff mapping. because as we finalize some of these decisions, now that we know the preschool is coming to the high school, we're in a position to kind of understand maybe what the staff impact is. So we'll put that staff mapping in our master project transition template so that we can kind of keep track of who might be impacted in this. Just a couple examples of the considerations and tasks. You know, the placement of a playground for the preschool at the high school. That's one of the things that we need to flush out. There's a requirement, and Dr. Whitner and I talked a little bit about this, there's a requirement to notify DESE of certain portions of this transition, obviously the closing of the school, but with 5th grade going into Hanson, you know, that may impact MCAS reporting scores and things like that. So we really think we have a really good understanding of the major considerations and tasks. Some recommendations on some next steps. We need to, you know, I talked about assigning ownership to the considerations and tasks. Our recommendation is really to look at the special ed programs at McQuon as the next priority and really try to figure out, for example, the cognitive program, where that best fits for the students. And then once we determine that, go through the same process as the preschool. Make sure we have an effective communication plan, and we're talking to parents and stakeholders about that. So that's going to be our next recommendation to the superintendent, and obviously we'll follow up with you on that. And then we committed to continually updating staff and stakeholders on the progress. So probably as things settle in the first month of school, we need to get back out in front of those staff and any other stakeholder groups and just kind of give them a little bit more depth on where we are. But I think we have a pretty good understanding of what needs to be done, and now we need to identify and assign some ownership of the tasking. And again, I just want to compliment Kyle. Kyle brings a lot of experience, especially with the preschool transition and the special ed program transition. And he's been invaluable this summer in kind of checking us to make sure that, you know, we've had some depth in our consideration. So I appreciate that.
Well, I just have a couple of questions. Has it been a decision made as to where the preschool will be located in the high school, or is that still?
So tentatively, we've identified this wing as you're going down this hall wall, the last set of classrooms to the left.
Okay.
What Ernie and his group did this summer was there was a trophy case that was a pretty sizable space, but it didn't really cost a whole lot and it was kind of unused space. So they closed that in already to be an office for Trish Collins. And then, so we've done a few walkthroughs in terms of, you know, the facilities for the kids and what needs to be adjusted and stuff. But right now, it's tentatively scheduled for that hallways. It requires some work on Chad's group. They're taking, my understanding is a computer lab's got to be reconfigured, so it's more of a mobile lab, which will free up some space. We've done several trips out back to see where potentially a playground could go. We also looked inside the internal courtyard to see the feasibility of having some space there for the kids. But yeah, so tentatively it's that wing down now.
And what's the staffing level? Any idea what that is right now?
I don't know off the top of my head, but it mirrors what's there now. I think
Yeah, it wouldn't change.
It's, you know, Trish and
Yeah, she's about five.
five, I think. And it's, I think the number of classrooms is 5. So,
Right. And would they still be able to, I don't know, say, they won't be isolated in the sense that those 5 are they only see each 5. Will they be able to meet with other groups, other grade levels to kind of interact, or?
I would think not. It's interesting because I've talked to other people where this configuration has happened, and over time what they do is they create interesting programs with the high school working with the preschool, and it's
Okay.
been very beneficial as school to career and also just providing that kind of support as well. So I don't envision that that would happen, and there are many models like this that are out there because it does provide that wonderful school-to-career opportunity.
All right, 'cause my only concern was I wouldn't want to see a group like that isolated.
Yeah, I think we'd make certain that that doesn't happen.
Okay.
And Tricia's part of the leadership group, so she's very involved as well.
I can just add to my own experience as special education director at Dayton-Rehoboth. We did move the preschool when I was there to the high school, and some of the considerations that we're looking at now, before I walked in the door, were the ones that we looked at, or we stumbled upon, or we fell over and picked ourselves back up. So some of those pieces are important, and Pat mentioned something about a playground. It's not, just where the playground is, but there are other things outside that may be too noisy for certain children who, have a disability that affects that. And it may be that safety near a certain window is better, off the road a little bit, or speed bumps back there. So there's a lot of pieces in those small actions that we've been trying to line up and follow up on. So.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Chris?
How and when do you envision the communications beginning to flow to the parents?
Well, for the special ed programs,
For all 4 phases, so I guess maybe, I'm not looking for a specific action plan for each phase, but of the 4 phases, there's gotta be some level of communication.
Yeah.
And what does that look like?
so I think there's certain decisions that have to be made as a priority, like, for example, the notification and identification of where the preschool happens. Then, like I said, the next recommendation is the special ed programs, because those are unknown where they're going to, like the K through 2 we know is going to Indian Head, 5th grade we know is.
Right.
So those are easier sets of communications to have going into the middle school and going into, so we envision a series of meetings with parents impacted by those 2 phases. Again, we know those are finite. We know that where they're going and when they're going. The challenge right now is we've done the preschool, we need to do the special ed program. But we've talked to, like when we met this summer, we talked about when they should happen and how they should happen for each of these phases. And part of that was we stepped back and said, you know what, we really need to, next thing we need to do is identify where these special ed programs are. Because there's some anxiety with that group of parents and students because it's an unknown.
Right.
So,
And I would add to that is the special ed parent advisory council that we're required to have is a very small entity right now here. And it may be a nice opportunity for us to both grow that and get information out that way, because there's a task in hand that group would be really, number one, favorable about making sure the kids are in the right spot, but also a vested interest in it. So it's trying to build that group and do this at the same time, maybe just a bonus for us.
Anyone else? Thank you, Pat. Thank you, Kyle.
Thank you.
We appreciate it. Okay, next up is budget FY 2018-2019. As you know, we had one meeting with the school committee and some of the officials from the towns of Whitman and Hanson, and we had set a tentative date for sometime right in the beginning of September. But as we're contacting people, that's becoming a little more difficult, so we're going to push it into the beginning of October for this meeting. We will be more apt to tell you what the next school committee meeting, when we're going to be having it. We just have to get everybody on the same page, so to speak. Because if we don't have all of the stakeholders, it's kind of a wasted time, so we'll be getting back to you about that. Under new business, health insurance, Edward Burns will be coming at the next meeting that we're having. He couldn't come this evening. Also, we have a meeting date change. The October 11th school committee meeting is rescheduled to October 18th. So please put that on your calendars. The meeting for the 11th has been rescheduled for the 18th. Everybody get that? Any questions about that? Job description revision, which you have all heard has already been voted, so we're good with that. Every year, we vote to accept the handbooks for the faculty and the students. Ruth, are there any changes
Just
or
a
modifications?
couple of minor ones. We changed a little bit of the language in the distribution of medications policy, a part of the handbook. That was a recommendation from the school nurses, so that's a little bit of a change. The other thing that we did is we have a non-discrimination policy. In light of some of the concerns that have happened recently in terms of discrimination for gender, race, a variety of things that have happened, we have just emphasized that in the policy this year. So it's not a new policy to the district, but we made sure that it was in all of the handbooks. So that is one of the other changes that happened. Other than that, other than name changes of people, combining one principal for Indian Head and McQuon, no other major changes at this time.
I'd entertain a motion to accept the handbooks for the faculty and the students.
Second.
Discussion?
Do you need, question,
Kev?
do you need any wiggle room? I know that, that Pat is on there for, reporting certain incidents, like
Yeah.
the race-related things, the words
Yeah,
you
we'll
and
have to
Pat.
change
do you-
that, but
do you need-
when the handbooks went out, we put them out that way.
Yeah.
Now that you've made a change, we can put the interim in, or, we'll reorganize what Kyle and I are doing as
you-
well.
you don't
But we
need
do
us-
have to change that.
Do you need us to vote on that, or?
I don't think so.
No, okay.
That's
Fine
it's
then.
more or less
Good with that.
what happens is that a handbook is equivalent to policy. So whenever you vote a handbook, it's a policy of the district, just like the policies that we have on the website. So that's why it's very important for us to bring that to you on an annual basis.
Anyone else? All those in favor?
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, every year, we have to vote on articles. We went to the selectmen's meeting on Tuesday evening and presented this, and I will read them to you, but we need to vote them as a committee to see if the town will vote to transfer.
The right one. You want the one that's on your right?
To see if
There you
the
go.
town will vote to transfer a sum of money from free cash or available funds for repairs at McQuon Elementary, Indian Head Elementary, and Hanson Middle School, proposed by the Whitman Hanson Regional School District. The first one is McQuon, repair the boiler and replace the tubes, $20,000. The explanation is they needed to be replaced in the boiler to continue to keep the boiler working. Second one is any discussion on that? Any questions? The next one is Indian Head Recommission Engineering Study for the HVAC system. It's to recommission the Indian Head HVAC system to include classroom univents and rooftop units. It helps identify ways to make the system operate more efficiently and create better air circulation. $15,000. Questions? Number 3, Hanson Middle Boiler Control. We're installing a new boiler control and a complete conversion package for one boiler. I believe this was discussed at length at a couple of repair committees way back, and it never was finished or done. So we're bringing it forward. That's $33,250. It's for a total of $68,250. I'd entertain a motion to accept.
So moved.
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor? This is to place on the warrant. Unanimous. Thank you. Okay, Bob Rogers, we need to appoint Ruth, Dr. Whitner, to the PCC board, I believe.
Annual appointment,
We do it
Project
yearly.
Contemporary Competitive.
I'd entertain a motion to appoint her.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? All those in favor? Unanimous. Thank you. We have to declare some surplus. Attached is a book that I am recommending being designated as surplus. It is my recommendation these materials be recycled or donated to any program that is in need of used textbooks. Please note that the above-mentioned books have been sitting on a shelf in classroom 118 for 7 years unused. These books are no longer used for any curriculum as the class they were used for is no longer offered. Called Voices of Hope, Readings from Giraffe Heroes Project, copyright 2004. There are 32 of them. Please consider this request to declare these materials surplus. Thank you, Nina Consolini. I'd entertain a motion to do so.
Second.
Discussion? All those in favor? Unanimous. We have to accept a
We
gift.
had another surplus, didn't we, Michelle, from Brian Seelig, I think, that was in the additional.
Okay, we'd like Brian Seelig, the K-12 Math Curriculum Director. Dear Dr. Whitner, I'd like to request the following outdated high school math texts be declared surplus for the purpose of having them donated. Algebra 2, Trigonometry, 3rd edition, Fundamentals of Pre-Calculus, and the Basic Practice of Statistics. These texts are no longer used in our high school classrooms, in large because they are not aligned with the 2011 Mass Curriculum Frameworks for Mathematics and/or College AP Curriculum Framework, and are taking up valuable classroom and storage space that could be better utilized. Please let me know if you have any concerns or questions. Sincerely, Brian Seelig. I'll entertain a motion to declare those surplus.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? All those in favor? Thank you.
And I have a general surplus issue. This summer, we've had the services of retired librarian Kathy Gabriel, who's been working over in Hanson in the McQuon Library, because there are books that need to be called as being outdated, no longer aligned with curriculum or of use to the school system. It's a lot of books. We would like to have the committee give her permission to be able to discard or use appropriately any books that would not be used when the Indian Head Library becomes a PK-4 or a K-4 library. So we just wanted sort of a blanket okay that if things are deemed inappropriate or not useful anymore to the library, if we would be able to do that. I went over with her and just went through things. She also has things such as VCR tapes. Nobody's going to use them. Nobody's going to look at them. And they're books that publication dates like 1965 or things like that. So she would just like the opportunity to be able to make some informed judgment in terms of what should be discarded.
I'd entertain a motion to do as the superintendent has just spoke to us, Kathy Gabriel, as a blanket surplus.
Great. Make it a lot easier than giving you a list of every single book as we go, and VCR tape. Okay, thank you.
Made and
Great.
seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor? Unanimous.
Thank you.
We have to accept a gift, but it says here, Michelle, request to accept donation of used cafeteria tables.
Yeah, you
Evidently,
have
I
it.
didn't get this.
You have it. Let's see. We'll find it.
Okay. Thanks, Shel. Dear Dr. Ruth Gilbert Whitner, I'm requesting the acceptance of 6 used cafeteria tables from surplus from the South Middlesex Regional Vocational Technical School District to the Whitman Hanson Regional High School. Thank you for your consideration. Sincerely, Christine Suko. I'd entertain a motion to accept those tables.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? All those in favor? Thank you. We have no field trip requests just yet. Subcommittee reports. Policy Subcommittee.
We are meeting next Wednesday at 4 p.m. We got a communication from MASC with a number of policies that are either redundant or should be culled. We need to go through that. I think we're in pretty good shape for that because our policy book is very updated. And then we also need to look at a non-discrimination policy that includes gender identity. So that'll be the work that we'll be doing next Wednesday afternoon.
Okay. Facilities and Capital Improvements Committee, they'll be reporting at the next meeting.
That's right.
Legislative update,
Nothing this week.
Pilgrim Area Collaborative report.
So the last meeting was the night of our last meeting here. I did find out that we finished all of our FY 2017 work for the year, and one of the biggest pieces was approving the 5-year strategic plan that was just written for PAC. What we were looking for over the summer was feedback of the strategic plan through a survey, and I don't know the results of that. Our meetings actually will commence in October as well.
And And Steve, I've been working with Pilgrim on their strategic planning.
that's
So
great.
I met with them in August and helped them begin to write their action plans. Spent about 2 hours with them. So they had feedback from the survey, and we took that information, and then we took what they know about their specific programs. So
Excellent, thank
they're
you.
moving forward with that. So it's good.
very
It's
exciting.
a good process.
Any questions? Negotiations Subcommittee, will be taking that up very shortly. We have an executive session this evening to get into that a little bit, and we will be meeting to set the ground rules. We'll be discussing that shortly. And Regional Agreement Committee, I believe that we're working on dates
You got one right there?
Well, the
25th of
25th.
September at 6 PM.
at 6 here.
And Michelle has sent out save the dates.
So whoever's on the Regional Agreement
Yep.
Committee, the first meeting will be on the 25th of September
Yep.
at 6 o'clock here. Next up, executive session, collective bargaining strategy, Whitman Hanson Education Association, Units A to D. Having the discussion in an open session may be detrimental to the school committee's bargaining or litigating process. I'd entertain a motion to go into executive session. Mike?
Yes.
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 Thank you, everyone.